Guys, welcome to Real Classic Film Reviews and welcome to a classic movie review of 1967's Point Blank, starring Lee Marvin, John Vernon and Angie Dickinson. Now, directed by John Boorman and adapted loosely from Donald E. Westlake's novel The Hunter, the film is basically a straightforward revenge story about a man left for dead who comes back to reclaim what's his. But underneath the surface, Boorman has injected something far stranger, colder and more ambitious, a fractured dream of a movie that sees Marvin's character increasingly frustrated in his mission to reclaim his money due to the criminal underworld, now mirroring a corporate business empire with many departments and nobody taking any real responsibility. Now, in terms of American cinema, this movie was revolutionary in that it has a fractured structure, flashback style editing, all stolen from French filmmakers, of course. But what Point Blank does is it takes the gangster film, one of cinema's older genres, and drags it into the modern world, much like Marvin's character in the film. Let's take a look.
Like this. What do you want?
I want my money. I want my 93 grand.
$93,000? You threaten a financial structure like this for $93,000? No, Walker, I don't believe you. What do you really want?
I really want my money.
So at the centre of Point Blank, we have Lee Marvin as Walker, a thief betrayed during a heist on Alcatraz Island by his partner and his own wife, then gunned down and left to bleed on the floor of a jail cell. Against all odds, he survives this, or at least he appears to. You see, Point Blank is quite slippery about whether what we're watching is reality, a hallucination, or a dying man's fantasy about getting revenge, playing out in his final moments. Boorman, fresh off his British debut Catch Us If You Can, takes this ambiguity and a straightforward revenge plot and fuses them into this dreamlike, disjointed tale of vengeance. And so the spine of the film's story is deceptively simple. Walker wants his cut of the heist money, a mere $93,000 from the sprawling crime syndicate named the Organisation that stole it from him. He punches and shoots his way up the organisation's chain of command, demanding payment from one confused bureaucrat after another. Each encounter ends up the same way.
You'll ask him for the money, he'll say no, and you'll kill him.
Yeah, something like that. What do you think this was, a pitch?
And rather than finding the money and the satisfaction that he's looking for, Walker moves deeper into an endless maze of this corporate organisation where the mob is less a shadowy underworld and more a respectable business with boardrooms, ledgers and suited executives. Now, of course, one thing you have to mention when discussing Point Blank is how Boorman employs this flashback editing style and cross-cutting between scenes. It's maybe not the revolution it once was when watching these days, but in 1967 this was quite boundary pushing, and it's done so well that it never really disrupts the movie or makes you lose track of the continuity of what's going on. Here scenes bleed into one another through jarring cuts with flashbacks and conversations that are interrupted by moments of silence, etc. And this is pivotal, I think, in regards to one of the key discussion points around Point Blank. It's no spoiler to say that in the first few minutes here, the opening credit sequence, in fact, that Marvin's character is shot multiple times and left for dead on Alcatraz. And so the way that this is all edited may reflect Walker's fractured consciousness, as if the film itself is trying to show us the disjointed thoughts or visions of a dying man. Or it might just be a straight up revenge tale with some trippy 1967 editing, who knows. It's great though. So Lee Marvin was at the peak of his career in the late 60s, having just won the Best Actor Oscar for Cat Ballou. And around that time, his acting credentials included The Professionals, The Dirty Dozen, Hell in the Pacific, and he was that old school breed of actor, the likes of which are not really around today. Marvin had fought in World War II in the 4th Marine Division as a scout, participating in 21 amphibious assaults on Japanese-held islands. Marvin struggled with alcoholism throughout his entire life, which would help take his life in 1987 at the age of just 63. Now, what makes Marvin's work in Point Blank so fascinating is its ambiguity. Is Walker a ghost, a hallucination, or simply just a dude on a mission so single-minded that he just seems otherworldly? Now, Walker's betrayal begins with his wife, played by Sharon Acker, who conspires with his partner, Mal, played by a great slimy John Vernon, to steal his share of the heist. Now, Acker's character is consumed by guilt and despair, and she unravels in one of the film's most haunting scenes quite early on, and maybe one of the first clues that time is a pretty malleable thing here, as Walker paces her apartment in various states, going from furnished to completely empty and back just within a few edits. But it's Acker's sister Chris, played by Angie Dickinson here, who becomes Walker's kind of sidekick for most of the movie, and she bounces back and forth between attraction and resentment towards him. I always love that one striking scene where she becomes so frustrated with his single-mindedness that she quite furiously beats him with her fists while he just stands there motionless. It's a cracking bit of acting on her part, I think.
Forget it.
You forget it.
So yeah, old school, old Hollywood classic film noir is quite often set in these smoky nightclubs or dark alleyways, yet Point Blank's criminal world is broad daylight and the high rises of Los Angeles. In a cheeky dig at American capitalism, Walker's not battling thugs for survival here, he's fighting the system. It's a very 1960s idea, the individual fighting the man for what's his. And when he finally corners the organisation's leaders, he finds his demands are hilarious because nobody deals in cash anymore. It's all big bank transactions and checks. It's not the old days with these duffel bags full of dollar bills. Now, though it received mixed reviews on its initial release, Point Blank has grown in stature over the decades, now regarded as one of the most influential crime films of its era. If you've seen Steven Soderbergh's The Limey, which would make a great double bill with this actually, you'll find its editing style and tone right there. I think 1971's Get Carter and even 2011's Drive certainly share the DNA of this movie. And there was even a couple of direct remakes, such as John Flynn's The Outfit in '73 and Brian Helgeland's Payback in 1999, both adapted from the same novel. Directors like Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh have spoken about its impact and admitted to stealing from it. It's odd because there's obviously elements of it that are very much of its time, but it's also quite timeless, and it feels less like an old-fashioned relic of the 60s and more almost like a blueprint for many a thriller that would follow. Now, I have to point out that Point Blank arrived in the same year as Bonnie and Clyde, as Cool Hand Luke, The Graduate, In the Heat of the Night, Le Samurai and The Dirty Dozen. Up there, I think, with the greatest ever single years in cinema. So yeah, Point Blank remains a movie that refuses to resolve itself. Is Walker alive or is he dead? Is this a revenge tale or a dying man's fever dream? Is Walker still out there somewhere looking for his $93,000? Of course, the fact that Boorman never answers is precisely what gives the movie its power and has made it so rewatchable over the decades. It may not be for everyone, but if you're up for it, this is one of the sharpest, most stylish, most unsettling crime thrillers ever made. Go check it out.
You let him fall, you should have killed him. You owed it to yourself.
Well, this money belonged to sister. Better take it.
You died at Alcatraz, all right. Goodbye, Walker.
Yeah, goodbye.